Welcome to another edition of South Centers Chat. Please stay tuned. I have a special guest from India, Riti Chatterjee. We'll be visiting her about her work in India in agriculture. Hello once again. My name is Tom Worley. I am the director here at Ohio State University's South Centers, Piketon, Ohio. And this is an edition of South Centers Chat. I have a special guest today, Riti Chatterjee. Riti comes to us as a visiting scholar. She's a PhD student and working as a senior research scholar here in our Soil and Water Lab. For the next, well, she started with 6 months, so she's about halfway through that. Coming up on it, she'll be with us up into June to complete her time with us here at Ohio State. So Riti, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad to have you sit down with me a little bit this morning and share with me some things about your life in India and your country, just in general as some background, and then we'll get on into your work there in agriculture. So whatever you wanted to share in terms of your family background and where in India you're from. I think you've got some map to come up and some information to share with our audience.
I'm basically from the eastern part of the India, from the West Bengal. This is a important state in India, and it has the area of about 32,000 square mile. And the main occupation in West Bengal of that main or the majority of the people mainly are associated with the agriculture, either directly or indirectly. So here agriculture is an important occupation and also the important source of mode of life for the people. And the main crops in West Bengal is the rice, which is our staple food. And besides rice, there is potato, mustard, that is the oilseed mustard. And a number of vegetables are also grown here, like cabbage, cauliflower, during the winter times. And a number of gourds, that is the pointed gourds, bottle gourds, bitter gourds. These are mainly produced in West Bengal. And also there are some fruit crops and also flowers are grown in West Bengal.
Did you grow up on a farm?
No, actually I have not any personal farm, but my father and my grandfather also had, my father also have a little bit of agricultural farm.
And they lease the land out to other farmers?
They are not directly engaged, but they are the tenant farmers. They mainly.
You might describe, I think, Riti, just what a typical farm, how large that farm is, and family members that might be involved. You've mentioned the main staple crops, but just in terms of size of farms, I think there's quite a difference between farm size there and what we would experience here in Ohio. You might share that.
Actually, what I'm experiencing in Ohio, the farm size, the holding size is much bigger. But one of the main constraint, you can say, or the problem in our state is the fragmented land holding. And sometimes it acts as barrier in adopting any new technologies. And most of the farmers are mainly small and marginal farmers. So they have not enough capacity to cope up any new technologies, any new innovations, because that involves a large amount of initial investment. And there is a very small part of the farmers are the large farmers.
And a large farmer is considered, I think you mentioned, as much as 10 hectares on average. And a hectare, I believe, translates to about 2.2 acres. So for perspective, we're talking somewhere between 20 and 25 acres would be considered a relatively large farm in West Bengal in India. And a small farm might be 1 acre to 2 acres.
2 acres.
And this fragmentation, I think, results from the land, traditional land transfer process, where
Yeah.
family members, there's a certain amount of land and it gets divided among the sons. Would that be accurate?
Because the ancestry, it has fragmented. Because my grandfather has almost, there we measured the land in Bigha also, almost 80 to 90 Vigha, but now our fathers are almost 10 to 12. So the land has been fragmented.
Right,
time
right.
to time.
And as she has mentioned, the ability to use machinery and, technology that would improve yields and substitute for labor and hand labor especially is very difficult to adopt when you're on that small of a plot of land. But land and farming, as you've mentioned, is the main activity in your area of India.
And the farmers are also energy prodigal because they are not energy efficient.
Aha. Okay.
Because when the farmers have to move their machinery from one field to another field, it takes time and also it consumes much fuel. That's why it is not energy efficient sometimes.
Now, just to help clarify for my purpose, if no other, I didn't get to ask this, but we talk about technology. Are farmers still using animal power, or do they have small tractors that they use?
No. They are using the tractors.
Small tractors.
Small tractors and big tractors also.
Okay. Okay. Well, very good. You've got some slides, I think, that we can put up that just show some of the beauty and some of the variety of your home area. So I don't want to overlook that.
This is the hilly district of my state, West Bengal. This is the Darjeeling. And the most of the people like to spend holidays, 2 to 3 days holidays here. And this is a toy train. This is a tradition of Darjeeling, and it is running over 100 years.
Right, and this is up in the Himalayan mountains, in the foothills at least, of the Himalayas?
Yeah, Kanchenjunga is there.
Yeah, I think you characterized you were in the lap of the Himalayas.
And this is the Himachal Pradesh. This is the largest, I think, the hilly state of India. And the whole state is in the lap of the Himalayan mountain region.
It's
And
a
this is
very
so nice.
beautiful picture. Wow.
And this is the Howrah Bridge, which has built in the British time. And the Kolkata, which is the capital of my state, is identified through this name, Howrah Bridge. And this is our emotion, you can.
And this river that it crosses is the Ganges?
The Ganges River, yes.
Largest river in India?
River, yeah.
And the lifeblood of the country, if I've read that right in prior
because
times.
most of our industries are in the banks of the Ganges.
Right. And a lot of irrigation water comes from the Ganges and its tributaries.
And the drinking water also in purified comes from this Ganges River.
So I think that quote of the lifeblood of the people in India is very appropriate. Just one more thing about the British occupation, if you will, or the as a colony of the British Empire. That ended when, Riti?
This is before 70 years.
About 70 years ago.
Before the 1947.
After World War II is when Britain began to divest and move out of some of the places that it had been prevalent when the so-called British Empire was very active in prior years. So that was a big change for the country, I'm sure.
It's a big change.
Yes.
True.
Okay, we got another picture. Oh,
and
beautiful.
This picture is also from this Himachal Pradesh. And there are a number of rivers which came from the Sindhu River, that is the Shatadru, and Bipasha or Biash, and the Jhilam. These rivers are in the Himachal Pradesh state.
Right. Well, it's just a beautiful land we can see in a variety, because this is not the picture that comes to mind when I tend to think of India, but mountains always change the climate, and with the snow and beautiful evergreen trees, it's certainly a very nice picture. I think you have another one here of something very famous in India.
This is one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Taj Mahal.
Right. And it just so happens that earlier this very week, our president was over with the Prime Minister of India, and made a visit to Taj Mahal with their families, as I understood.
He has visited with his family 2 to 3 days ago.
And Riti, you have personally been there.
Yeah.
Now, this is in a different part of India than where you're from, though.
This is the
northern?
northern part,
Right.
and I'm from the eastern part of the India.
Right, right. So it was a little bit of a trip for you to get there. Yes.
It takes time.
Okay. But I think you told me you plan to take your children one of these days.
Sure.
Everybody wants to see.
Because these Taj Mahal symbol is a symbol of love in my country.
Symbol of love.
Yeah.
That's great to know. I hadn't
Because
heard it described that
Mughal
way.
Emperor Shah Jahan has built this Taj Mahal in memory of his wife, Mumtaz.
Ah. I don't think that story is well known here. Yeah, the 7 wonders of the world, yeah, we're aware of that, but not the origins about his wife being the inspiration and a symbol of love. That's interesting to know. Another picture.
Yeah, this is the sea beach of Bay of Bengal. This is from my state, and this is the Digha.
Okay.
And this is so nice.
Oh, yeah.
And here is also, you can see the Ganges River, and this is the bank of the Varanasi.
This is the oldest city,
Yeah, one of the oldest city in the world.
not alone India, but in the world. I think you said dated back to 1100 before Christ.
And this is a very rich city in terms of the culture, education, and religiously also. For the Hindu religion, this is a very sacred place
Okay.
for us.
Okay. Now, is your research and where you do your work near this city on the outskirts, or are you?
No.
No.
It takes some time from mine.
From where? You're on the interior of Bengal.
Oh, this is in Uttar Pradesh.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Well, now I think we want to turn to some more of your academic training in agriculture and what inspired you to get involved in agriculture. Obviously, you mentioned having land in your ancestors, and your grandfather and father is definitely an influence. But you might want to talk about what road led you down this agriculture, the academic road that you seem to be on.
It has stimulates me. Though my father or grandfather is not farmer in true sense, because my father is a teacher, and my grandfather was a doctor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there was a tradition of keeping the land in the family, because this is a symbol of tradition.
Right.
And this photo is from a farmer's field in Nadia district of West Bengal.
And we recognize this as cabbage.
Cabbage. Yeah.
Very good. And would this be grown in cooler season?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the winter times, it grows in West Bengal.
And is most of the cabbage used fresh, or is it made into sauerkraut or processed in some way?
No. We take it as fresh.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then we cook it.
Okay.
make
Okay. So
curry
cooked
and
cabbage
we-
is big. Okay. Okay.
And then we take it with rice.
With rice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Another crop.
And this picture is from my project's research farm
Okay.
at Nadia district also. My university is the Bidhan Chandra Krishi Viswavidyalaya, Bidhan Chandra Agriculture University. The farm is from there, and here we are doing research on the conservation agriculture in having 3 type of experiments. That is the conservation tillage, and the no tillage or reduced zero tillage, and the reduced tillage.
Okay.
So this is a picture from this experimental plot, and here we are growing the potato crop.
Potatoes.
In winter
now, are
season.
potatoes very common in India? And they are
we
very
take
common.
potato in every curries or in every preparation. We use potato.
Okay. Okay. So along with rice, potatoes are a much staple crop. So it looks like a beautiful crop that you had going there. So you conduct field research as well as do extension. With
Yeah,
farmers.
I'm mainly an agricultural extensionist, and I'm doing research on this.
Right.
I mainly conduct the surveys and prepare the questionnaire to interview the farmers and assist in the field days, farmer days, workshops.
Right, right. Well, I think we have some pictures coming up of you in action. Maybe another crop, though, that we might not recognize as readily here. You might tell us about this crop.
This is the mustard crop. We mainly use as a oil seed crop. We
Right.
produce oil from these,
Okay.
which we use in cooking.
Cooking.
Yeah.
And then the meal, after processing, that goes into animal feed.
Oil cakes, this is used as animal feed.
And what would be the animals that are primarily fed this cake?
The cattle, that is the
Cattle?
cow.
Okay. Okay.
They are mainly feed with these oil cakes,
Right.
mixing with another feed.
Roughage, I'm sure, in addition to that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And this is from the zero tillage plot of the maize. And here is the treatment that is 50% crop residues has been incorporated with 100% of NPK, that is the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate.
Okay, so this would be reduced tillage
Yeah.
process?
No, this is from zero tillage, and there's also another experiment from reduced tillage.
Okay.
And we are doing also the conventional one
Okay.
to compare the effects of these different type of tillage, which will act good in our situation.
And is no-till performing well in your soils and your farming systems? No-till.
Actual farmers have come in a farmer's day and they were too much excited after seeing this field, because in zero tillage the panicles of the rice or the paddy plants are quite good than the conventional one.
Wow.
So a number of farmers has been interested, and they have collected these seeds from our project
Okay. Okay.
to grow in their situation, in their
Very
field.
well. Very well.
Yeah.
Well, you have a big population to work with and many people on the land, so extension is very important to help educate
Extension is very important.
the actual farmers in your region. So I think we have some pictures
Yeah.
now. Here you are in action.
Yeah, this is from my district, from my home district, in a village, and here I was interviewing and knowing many of issues, aspects from the farmers and how they're growing. And what I have found that the farmers are practicing conservation agriculture partly.
Conventional, are you?
Yeah, but the conservation agriculture, the
Okay.
no-till agriculture.
Okay.
But sometimes they don't know that this is the conservation agriculture in true sense. So they are mainly adapting in non-cognitive manner, because without knowing properly. But sometimes they are practicing only one or two principles of the conservation agriculture, because conservation agriculture has mainly three principles. That is less disturbance of the soil, permanent soil cover, and the crop rotation or crop diversification. So sometimes farmers practicing is partly.
So they might miss part of that whole system, because it is a system change, not just a practice change on one or two things. Well, this is our experience here in America as well, that as you adopt different tillage methods, then there are a lot of other adjustments in terms of the fertilizer program, in terms of the weed control, pest control that are involved. And then more recently, and I think you mentioned cover crops as being a part of it. And of course, you're learning more from our program here about cover crops, which are relatively new, not brand new, but here in Ohio, it's beginning to be adopted, but it's not widely adopted yet in terms of using cover crops. But the soil in India, I'm sure, has been cultivated for many, many more years. You mentioned that city going back BC 1100. I'm sure there was agriculture using that soil. And so our soil is relatively young in terms of being involved in agriculture compared to that. So I think that cover crops and the newer methods would have potentially a big influence on the productivity.
Yeah, so this is the high time to adapt the conservation agriculture in our situation. But sometimes people get confused about it, that whether it will work or not in their particular situation. But if the farmers use single or two of the principles of the conservation agriculture, it may not work well. But if they adapt the three principles simultaneously, then it will work definitely.
Okay, now you might name those three principles one more time.
I named, this is the less disturbance of the soil, permanent soil cover, and the crop diversification or crop rotation.
Okay.
That's right.
Very well. Now, do Indian farmers that you're working with here, say, a larger audience, it looks like, in a facility, do they typically use a lot of purchased inputs in terms of fertilizer and hybrid seeds and pesticides like our farmers?
They use a lot. Sometimes they use unknowingly or in non-calibrated manner.
Okay.
And this is becoming harmful for the soil.
Ah, okay. So they've been sold. I mean, there's plenty of people there to sell them all the fertilizer that they'll buy and all different kind of inputs. So we have all this competition to sell farmers everything here in America as well. So I can see that it takes knowledge to make really an informed decision about what to purchase, how well it's going to work, and what the value is before you know whether you can justify the price. So that's kind of near and dear to my heart, in terms of farm management principles in determining whether you're going to get your money back. And ultimately, in India, that has to be a fact of life as well.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
And here is the intervention of us, extension people.
Right.
We have to make the farmers aware of these type of principles, of this type of practice, which can help them to conserve their natural resources in their field.
Right.
So
right.
here's the intervention about.
Just as a side note, when I think about financing these input purchases to grow the crop, do your farmers have to take out loans in order to get the crop in the ground, in order to pay their bills until the crop comes in that they have it to sell?
No, actually, the marginal and small farmers generally do not take the loan from the banks.
They do not?
Yeah, but some of the big farmers take during the purchase of any machinery.
Okay.
That time. Okay. But now our government, both the central and the state government, is providing fund through two schemes like Krishak Bondhu, that is the farmer's friend.
Oh, okay. So
there is recently 2 schemes through which they are supporting the farmers.
Right, okay.
And there are a lot of schemes which support the farmers in time of their purchasing of the machineries. And that's like...
Okay. Well, Riti, I think your time here is well spent, I think, studying our methods and the research that we have going and how we do extension work. I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about what you've encountered so far. I know you haven't been here all that long, but in terms of our lab and in terms of our field, and maybe you've been out to some farm meetings, I think, do you have any impressions that you want to share?
Yes, actually here Dr. Rafiq Islam and all of the members in our lab, Dr. Mo and Jordan Maxwell and Shivnath are helping me a lot, and also you, Dr. Tom Worley, and all of the people in South Center are helping me a lot in achieving my milestones here, which I have set before coming here, the work outline to achieve this. And I have gone in 2 producers conferences in Columbus and in also Dayton.
Okay.
And there I met a number of farmers, and in Dayton I have shared experience in Indian experience.
Oh, you made a presentation?
Yeah, I made a presentation.
Okay.
I have shared a success story of an Indian farmer, and the American farmers, a number of the American farmers were too much interested in this presentation, and all of these has encouraged me to do more.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So you've received a good reception by our farmers when you've been at these conferences. That's great to hear. Yeah, I think the conference in Dayton was the Ohio Ecological Farm and Forest Association annual meeting. It draws several hundred people, and I'm sure you had a good audience in your session. Yeah,
I had a very great session.
Very well. Excellent. Well, this is one way that our extension work is carried out, is by attending conferences such as that and then having presentations. So I think we may have a few more pictures if you want to talk about Riti.
So here I'm also doing the survey among the farmers. I have prepared a questionnaire with help of Dr. Islam.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. So you're gathering some data.
I'm gathering also some data
Good
here.
for you. Good for you. Yeah,
And this picture is from the Sundarban of my district. This is mainly a mangrove region, and I went here to do survey in the farmers' field. Okay.
Now, when you say mangrove, this is the area kind of between the sea and dry land.
Right.
That it is wet much of the time.
The river is also there. The Ganges River is also there.
Right.
And there is the Royal Bengal tiger, the national animal of my country, India. This is also from this part of the
Bengal tiger?
Bengal tiger.
Oh, well, now we have that connection here in Cincinnati with our football team.
Yeah.
You would be aware is Cincinnati Bengals. So we have that connection, and tigers all over the place down there.
Yeah.
On game day especially. So this is very interesting.
Yeah, this is also from Sundarban with the farm family.
Uh-huh. Okay. And they would work together on a plot of land then?
Yeah. There's
And
some
women in
homestead land.
agriculture are not unusual?
No, there's women are in agriculture in India.
They work right alongside.
Yeah.
Very well. Very well. Okay.
And this is a workshop in my project on social ecology of conservation agriculture.
And what you call it, social and ecological effects of agriculture?
Yeah, how the social and ecological factors are converging and working and influencing.
Very well. And I think that's your academic training. You mentioned that you studied social science as your major before getting into extension work.
And because I'm doing my PhD research on the ecological, on the estimation of the ecosystem services in terms of the energy, climate, and the knowledge component of conservation agriculture. Basically, the social ecology of conservation agriculture at the farmers level.
Very well, very well. Well, I'm sure you're well received with your extension programs and your outreach over in Bengal, being part of India. And I'm glad to hear that you've been out to different extension meetings, and I hope you get to go to several more and be part of our workshops here that are coming up that we conduct here right at OSU South Centers, Riti. So we're kind of running down on time, and I would just take time to say that Riti's presence, along with other international scholars, really do enrich our program here. That we, not only do we try to share what we're doing here at our location and agriculture in Ohio, but really we learn from them. And even in this conversation, I hope that you have been able to pick up something about new that you didn't know before about agriculture in India as a result of Riti's efforts this morning. I really thank you for taking the time to do this. And any last words that you want to share, Riti? Why got a few seconds left for you.
This is my pleasure to come here in United States and also in Ohio. And after coming, I know that here is the longest research plot of the conservation agriculture, that is the no-till. So I wish to experience these in the summertime.
Yes, this is up at Worcester. You're talking about the no-till plots, I think, that are started over 40, maybe close to 50 years ago now, that have been in continuous no-till. So lots to see and do yet while you're here. I think we're out of time, Riti. Thank you once again, and we wish you well in your remaining time.